The 80s would be a massive decade for Jump, seeing it reach 3 million copies in circulation early on, with that number only growing as more big hits were added to the magazine's roster. I know a lot of people are excited now that I'm covering these classic manga, and I am too. We've moved on from the more obscure series of the 70s that put Jump on the map, and now we're getting into things that made it the true giant of manga it is today. So without any hesitation, let's jump into the 1980s of Weekly Shonen Jump. Following the end of Doberman Deka at the end of 1979, the artist Shinji Hiramatsu would start a new series beginning in the 80s in issue 1 of 1980. This series would be Riki Typhoon, lasting 79 chapters and 9 volumes. The series would follow the titular Riki Yamato, a young wrestler, with the series taking place in a school setting at the beginning before transitioning into a tournament format from what I can tell. It also seems to include real-world pro wrestling organizations and mentions of wrestlers like Lou Thez, very popular in Japan at the time and known as the god of wrestling or Tetsujin. He would apparently be Riki Yamato's master throughout the series. All Japan Pro Wrestling and the World Wrestling Federation are also mentioned, with the plot being about American wrestlers coming to Japan, or perhaps it was set at a worldwide stage. Some images of the manga include Riki fighting giant characters as well as women, with Hiramatsu being known for ecchi or sexy elements in his manga, which were likely present in Riki Typhoon 2. Kinnikuman would start getting more wrestling focused at this time, when Riki Typhoon debuted in chapter 32, being the beginning of the first Chojin Olympics arc. So with the addition of Riki Typhoon, it seems wrestling would be taking over as a popular trend of the time. Izumi-Chan Graffiti would start in the next issue, created by Tetsuo Kanai, lasting for 37 chapters and 4 volumes. Originally, it seems to have come from a one-shot called Izumi-Chan SOS, which won a Reader Award competition. The story follows Kyohei Shibata, whose life comes to a standstill when a beautiful girl called Izumi Tamura comes to live with him. It's a mix of rom-com elements with some ecchi in a school setting. Additionally, sports seem to be a primary theme, with Kyohei doing kendo and Izumi doing pole vaulting. Tetsuo Kanai did the golfing manga Hole in One, which we covered a few videos ago, which was also filled with beautiful girls, and after Izumi-chan's ending, it seemed he would focus on making manga like this for the foreseeable future. Izumi-chan remains popular to this day as far as I can tell, with me seeing a fair amount of artwork from Kanai, with him doing some for New Year's in 2020 I think. His wife seems to run his Twitter account and keeps posting images of his new art as well as the food they eat. She seems to really like his work, which is very sweet, and I'm glad they're doing well. 1980 marks the first year we get a manga officially translated and available in the Shonen Jump app, that being Akira Toriyama's Dr. Slump, a name that's going to turn a few heads, it debuting in this cool combined issue with actual authors on the cover to celebrate the new year. It also had multiple chapters, with the first 2 being serialized in the same issue, just like High School Family would in modern times. In total, it would run for 236 chapters, which would be compiled into 18 volumes, a lower number than you might think, since its chapters, like Dragon Ball, are only about 13 pages long, but those 13 pages have some of the best artwork Jump's ever seen. I'd go as far to say I actually prefer how Slump looks to Dragon Ball. Toriyama's characters are so expressive and fun, the backgrounds are full of detail, and he's excellent at drawing motion, vehicles, monsters, anything really. And by anything, this includes things like Ultraman, Godzilla, and even Char's Zaku from Gundam, which was a really nice surprise for me. Toriyama was wild with Slump, drawing whatever he fancied, leading to a manga full of nonsensical gags, and some chapters that deviate heavily from the main characters, like this one about this cute vampire lady and her goons. For the most part, Dr. Slump would follow the titular doctor, also known as Senbei Norimaki, and his robot daughter/sister, Arele. Lots of early gags would focus on Arele trying to fit in, weird aspects of her body like her detachable head, as well as other gadgets the doctor would create. For the most part, the gags are really funny even today, and it doesn't rely too heavily on referential humor, so it doesn't feel too dated. As mentioned, what it does reference are mostly things that are well remembered today, like Godzilla and Superman, adding it to feel more suitable for modern audiences, although the translation maybe streamlines some jokes or things that don't make sense for all I know. Later on, I do feel as if some chapters are a bit random. As Toriyama states in some of his bonus content, he likes to write the chapters as he goes along. This definitely leads to some duds. We would also see some multi-chapter arcs later on too, like the racing arc, as well as the high school champion arc, which introduces the Sun family. Here we see martial arts elements crop up, and gradually it starts to remind me more and more of early Dragon Ball. Not just because there's a bit more fighting, but the tone and type of gags feel closer to his next series than early Dr. Slump. It was a huge success for Jump as well, getting an anime in 1981 which would go on for 243 episodes, and having tons of movies as well as future anime projects that would keep it relevant even in the 90s. Even if Toriyama never made Dragon Ball, he still would have had one of the most successful and important early Jump manga under his belt with Dr. Slump, a series that would inspire the future generations of gag manga and remain beloved even now. Overall, Dr. Slump is a very fun gag manga that you can still feel the influence of today in things like Me and Roboco, both having great robot heroines who engage in tons of wacky hijinks. I also want to stress that Toriyama's art is absolutely amazing. His characters in particular have such fun and cute designs, and his cover pages blow my mind with how well drawn and creative they can be. Check it out on the Shonen Jump app or website officially. I'll leave a link down below. Otoko no Tabidaichi would see Yoshihiro Takahashi return, not quite ready to make his big splash with Ginga, but instead following two brothers named Ryoichi and Watari, who along with their family and pets go on holiday to Southeast Asia. It seems the manga is a coming-of-age style story based on the name A Man's Departure, where the boys and family must overcome their surroundings and survive. Its setting might shift as it seems like they might drift to an island with indigenous people or maybe Africa, making it a kind of adventure survival series, something not too common in Jump, although things like Dr. Stone come to mind. Yoichi is the more athletic of the two brothers, while Watari is a genius who knows 7 different languages. They also seem to have a pet tiger and some dogs. It really wouldn't be Takahashi manga without dogs. It seems very well loved in the Japanese sphere, with people commenting it's their favourite work of the author over Ginga even, and it managed to have a decent run too, lasting 6 volumes and 50 chapters. Jump would see a string of flops next, including the serialization of Big Gun, a one-shot we mentioned in the last video written by Bronson. Hi, so this is actually wrong. Bronson didn't make the one-shot Big Gun. I think Hiroshi Motomiya did, and it's in this one-shot collection called Big Gun. That doesn't explain who made Big Gun, though, the actual series in Jump in 1980. I'm actually not sure who did it, but I don't think it's Bronson. It could be Motomiya doing 2 series at once, but there just isn't much information at this time about any of this because it's so obscure. Forgive me for getting stuff wrong. Hopefully one day we'll figure out everything about Big Gun. But out of these flops came a couple of notable manga, the first being Yamazaki Ginjiro by our beloved veteran Hiroshi Motomiya. Originally, Motomiya would do a series in Monthly Jump called Kōha Ginjiro that ran for 9 volumes and even got a 3-part OVA anime. It seems this is a sequel to the original, only lasting 5 volumes and 32 chapters, seeing Ginjiro as a high school student wanting to be a carpenter at Sacred Heart Academy, according to his dead master's wishes. Here he would face backlash from the PTA for being a problem student, but would thrive and become the school's most beloved pupil. Following this, we would see the slightly less successful One-Man Army, which looks to be a biker delinquent style story. All the new series would be featured together on the issue 24 cover, with Yamazaki Ginjiro featured more, it clearly being the favourite, and it makes sense as the magazine owed Motomiya a lot for the magazine's development in its early years. Show Up High School would be a short gag manga only lasting 1 volume and 11 chapters by Hitoshi Tanimura. It followed the school's newspaper club as they aimed to show up the school to make their lives more interesting. This involves doing things like setting up a wrestling tournament within the school. It had some nice art, and if it wasn't meant to be a short series, it likely ended due to the other gargantuan gag manga in Jump at the time. For some reason, it seems semi-popular despite its very small size, so I thought it deserved a mention at least. Ichiro by Koji Koseki would last 5 volumes and 39 chapters, it being his debut work from my understanding, with Jump seeing more of him throughout the 80s and 90s with some bigger baseball themed series. It follows Ichiro Nagashima, a middle schooler bullied for being useless and boring. To get back at his bullies though, he decides to learn judo. It seems to be a more down-to-earth sports manga about judo, Ichiro's growth in the sport, and the club gradually getting stronger thanks to Ichiro's hard work and dedication inspiring them.
Yoshi yoshi.
Geki Gokutora Ikka would see the return of Akira Miyashita after his last manga, Perfect Path High School, would get cancelled. It would last 111 chapters and 12 volumes, showing that without an incident, Miyashita's work were very popular at the time and had long-lasting potential. It follows a boy called Tora who wants to be the greatest gangster in all of Japan, resembling Perfect Path a lot in the way it tells its jokes and how over the top it is. It even features the cast of Perfect Path, including School Cap Masa, who shows up now and again. If you've read his previous work, you know what to expect, but Geki Gokutora Ikka is even crazier, with Tora choosing to infiltrate the most notorious delinquent prison, Abashiri, early on in the story, where he ends up fighting Mecha, the American branch of delinquents, in a war, including this massive Native American man, and he also spouts a lot of homophobic things, and that's where the manga really disappointed me. I know it's the 80s and the fault sure also lies on the people who translated the manga, but the F word is used so much here and not just as something the characters are jokingly calling each other. The main character lacking tolerance and puking at the sight of any gay stuff is just disappointing, never mind the fact that he wants to beat them up for it. For all the legitimately wacky and funny things that happen in this manga, it's sadly ruined by being way too homophobic, so if you do want to read the fan translation, which is still ongoing, just be warned. 1980 wouldn't just see 1 gag manga mega hit, but 2, with Third Year Kimengumi by Motoe Shinazawa. Initially, it would run for 78 chapters compiled into 6 volumes, but it would see its cast graduate to high school with its 1981 sequel, Highschool Kimengumi, which lasted much longer. The plot follows 5 boys known together as the Kimengumi, basically translating as Funny Face Club as far as I can tell, and that's exactly what they are, 5 boys with very strange faces. Each of them is named after a pun like Ritetsugo, the simplest to explain in English because it's literally let's go. The jokes usually revolve around the 5 doing something stupid or weird, although sometimes other groups of 5 get involved. There's the sporty group, the jock group, the pretty boy group, the delinquent group called the Bangumi off the top of my head. There might be a few more introduced later down the line too. Overall, I'm not very impressed by it though, especially when Dr. Slump came out in the same year. It just can't match it in terms of art or jokes. Despite the main concept being the boys' weird faces, a lot of the jokes tend to be overly wordy. Coupled with this, it also has a penchant for puns or ideas that feel very of its time or Japanese focused, so I just don't get them. It's very hard to read, but if you do want to read it, you can read the entirety of Third Year Kimengumi as it's fully translated. It would also get a few extra pieces of manga media, including a 3rd sequel called Flash Kimengumi, although it seems that High School Kimengumi would be the series that would be the most well known, that one getting an anime while Third Year Kimengumi didn't. Regardless, Kimengumi would be around for many years to come, and alongside Slump and Kochikame, it's safe to say gag manga were as big as they have ever been during Jump's 80s. Baseball had seemed to temporarily have died in Jump, with many of the bigger series ending before the turn of the decade, other than the comedy-focused Susume Pirates. The end of 1980 would see us get Bun no Seishun by Takeshi Miya, lasting 6 volumes and 60 chapters. It follows Bunbu Shun, an elementary schooler who loves baseball and playing with his dad. His dad, however, finding out he has a disease and only a short time left to live, goes on to challenge the best big hitter in baseball, Sadaharu Oh, striking him out after 3 pitches and dying on the spot. Inspired by his father, Bun decides to continue on with his baseball journey, and the manga sees him go through different stages of his life, through middle school and high school, making rivals along the way and aiming to participate in the Koshin. It sounds like a fun, if a bit dramatic, baseball series. I've mentioned a couple throughout this video, but many manga that began serialization in 1980 didn't even end up reaching 20 chapters. Jump had a pool of great series drawing people to read the magazine now, as they would hit 3 million in circulation numbers, likely due to help of popular series like Kinnikuman, Ring ni Kakuro, and the new Dr. Slump. There wasn't room for the mediocre anymore. Jump would need bigger and bigger hits, and as much as people hate Axis and see it as a wasted potential, it's because of Jump's structure that it continue to grow, something that wouldn't change anytime soon, as the 80s would see an explosion of new great series, which I'm dying to cover in future videos. Just bear in mind that yes, there will be a chunk of series now and again that I don't even mention because they're so obscure or didn't last long enough that there's no point in me really even mentioning them. I thought as more time passed, the more series I'd be able to talk about, but we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the decade has in store for us. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you want more like this, and get excited because next time we're covering 1981, which has series such as Stop Hibari-kun, Cat's Eye, and Captain Tsubasa, a ton of old series which I'm gonna have to read, and that's gonna take a lot of time, so the wait in between uploads might be a little while. As always though, thank you for watching, be kind to each other, and take care.